Hi, I'm Kirsten Pointer, and I will be presenting on how media frame drug trafficking organizations, specifically the New York Times and Reuters. Drug trafficking organizations, or DOTs, operate across national borders, particularly between the United States and Mexico border. While these groups have traditionally been understood as a profit-driven criminal organization, their tactics have evolved over time. Recent reports show that many DOTs now use extreme violence, intimidation, and public displays of power that resemble terrorist tactics. These actions blur the line between organized crime and terrorism. This distinction is important because how these groups are classified can influence public perception and policy decisions. The media plays a crucial role in shaping this perception through the way it presents and shapes these organizations. Now, according to Global Initiative Against Transnational Organized Crime, terrorism is generally defined as politically or ideologically moved violence, while organized crime is profit-driven. However, these studies suggest that cartels increasingly use tactics associated with terrorism, such as mass violence, territorial control, and fear-based strategies. This has led to ongoing debate whether cartels should be classified as terrorist organization or organized crime. Media shaping is central to this debate as it influences how the public interprets cartel violence. Theoretical framework. This study uses two key media theories, which is framing and agenda setting, both of which help explain how audiences interpret information presented in the news. Framing refers to how media outlets select certain aspects of a story and emphasize them, shaping how the audience understands the issue. For example, describing cartel violence using emotionally charged language can lead the audience to interpret these groups as more dangerous or terroristic. Agenda setting, on the other hand, refers to the media's ability to influence what topics the public considers important. By consistently highlighting cartel violence, media outlets can increase public concern and shape political attention towards these organizations. Together, these theories explain not just what is reported, but how it is interpreted, making them essential for analyzing how drug trafficking organizations are framed as potential terrorist threats. The research question for this study is, how do the New York Times and the Reuters frame drug trafficking organization in ways that may influence whether they are perceived as criminal groups or as security or terroristic threats? This question allows for an analysis of how media framing can shape public interpretation, particularly in distinguishing between traditional criminal activity and border security or terrorist-related threats. The study uses quantitative content analysis of news articles published by the New York Times and Reuters between 2020 and the present. Articles were selected based on their focus of drug trafficking organization, cartel violence, and cross-border criminal activity. The analysis focuses on three key elements such as language, tone, and labeling. Language, including specific word choices used to describe cartel action. The tone refers to whether the reporting is emotional, neutral, or descriptive. Labeling examines whether the organizations are directly or indirectly associated with terrorism. By comparing these elements across media sources, the study identifies patterns in how each outlet frames drug trafficking organizations. From the New York Times, Article 1, The Framing Analysis. This article uses investigative and narrative framing to highlight the deep influence of drug cartels within government institutions. By focusing on corruption and systematic failures, it presents the cartel as powerful entities capable of destabilizing national systems, which align with how terrorist organizations are often portrayed. The agenda setting analysis. In terms of this, the article emphasizes the relationship between cartel and state institutions, signaling that the cartel activity is not just a criminal one, but a border structural issue. This elevates the cartel violence to a national and international concern. Now, with this article and the framing analysis, the article frames the drug cartel as highly organized and influential entities capable of infiltrating national security systems. By focusing on corporations at the highest level, it reinforces the idea that the cartel operate beyond traditional criminal activity and resemble border systematic threats. In agenda setting analysis, this perspective, the article prioritizes the connection between the cartels and political power, directing public attention towards the seriousness of cartel influence and its implications for national security. Findings from Reuters in this article with framing analysis, it demonstrates neutral framing by focusing on the factual details such as number of victims and statements from authorities. The language avoids emotional or descriptive terms and does not label the perpetrators as terrorists. Instead, it represents the violence as a reported event, allowing for the audience to interpret the severity on their own. In agenda setting analysis, Reuter highlights cartel violence as an ongoing issue by reporting on major incidences like mass killings. By consistently covering these events, the media signals that to the public, the cartel is important even without explicit framing as if it's terrorism. In this article, the framing analysis maintains a neutral framing style which describes cartel actions such as roadblocks and attacks without using emotionally charged or aggravated language. Even though the events themselves may resemble terrorist tactics, Reuter avoids using explicit labeling so that no confusion happens and the audience makes that decision. With agenda setting perspective, this article emphasizes the scale and coordination of cartel activity, drawing attention to their influence and ability to disrupt societal life. By focusing on these patterns, Reuter reinforces the importance of cartel violence as a public concern. Now, when comparing these sources, clear differences in framing emerge. The New York Times uses more interpretive approach, emphasizing an emotional impact and the lived experiences of individuals affected by cartel violence. This can lead the audience to perceive that these organizations are more closely aligned with terrorist groups, whereas Reuters, on the other hand, maintains more of a neutral tone, focusing on factual reports and avoiding strong interpretive language. This results in more restrained perspective on the same events. These differences demonstrate how media framing can shape public understanding even when both outlets are reporting on similar incidences. Ultimately, the distinction is not just in what's being reported, but in how it is being presented to the general public, which is reinforcing the powerful role of media in constructing the social reality. In conclusion, this analysis demonstrates that media framing plays a significant role in shaping how drug trafficking organizations are perceived. While both the New York Times and Reuters reported on cartel activity, they do so fundamentally in different ways. The New York Times uses narrative framing to provide context, emphasizing a systematic issue and guiding interpretation, which can make the cartel appear as border threats to national stability. In contrast, Reuters maintains a neutral and fact-based approach, focusing on individual events and official statements without strongly influencing interpretation. These differences show that media does not simply report reality, it helps construct it in the person's mind. The way information is presented can influence whether audiences view drug trafficking organizations as criminal entities or larger security threats. Understanding this distinction is important as it highlights the power of media in shaping public perception and influencing how border social and political responses happen. Are my references, and thank you for watching.